I was diagnosed after a certain amount of resistance, to be really frank about it.
You were resistant.
And I literally had to fall off of a ladder, knock myself out in my basement, and lay there and kind of come to before I called Burley to say that I had done this, and you insisted that I go to the hospital and have, see if I have a concussion or not.
At the time I was at work, and I remember you called me, said to everyone, I have to go. We have to take Wayne to the hospital. When we went to the hospital, we still didn't know. We didn't know until the next day.
No, it was a few days.
A few days later, and they called me on my phone, and they said that after they looked at the scans that they found a large mass in your neck. And I felt like my world stopped there. And you came down, and I told you.
Yeah.
And then we started the journey of finding the doctor.
It was really still hard for me to accept help, to feel fallible. I have lived a life of not wanting to be ill, not wanting to be hurt, but more to the point, a life of wanting to be self-sufficient. And when this all happened, I had no choice. And it was really you, not only who kind of saved me, because you made me go to the doctor, which led to the diagnosis. It was just the love and the support in the face of a really challenging life or death diagnosis. I was afraid. I was
afraid too, petrified, because to me you were the epitome of strength and resilience. And the moment I met you, because for me, I know that you always make fun of this, but it was love at first sight for me when I met you. And I finally felt like I had my, sort of like my storybook. We had our son, he was 2.5, and for this to happen to us was really challenging. And then sitting after we met with the doctor and sitting in Union Square, it's like the world stopped, even though the world was continuing. At the moment, I just felt really, really afraid for myself, for our son, for you, and for our life. From the moment I met you, everything was so easy, So everyone would always tell me, like, when you know, you know. And when I met you, I knew. Watching you in the hospital with the infusions, staying there for 5 days, coming home, at the same time me caring for a little guy.
And he didn't know what was
And
happening.
he didn't know. When your hair fell off, and he said to me, you know what? It's the fall, and Daddy's like a tree, and his leaves have fallen off, but in the spring, all his leaves will come back. Like, just the innocence and the optimism and the hope of seeing our son, the way he saw you, he just thought, this is just temporary.
Well,
and that gave me strength to see that he wasn't distraught.
It so quickly became painful and draining and death-like, laying in a hospital and just fading. But I would remember every night you'd come over at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and the
food.
air was just of a different content. It was like oxygen was pumped into the room, and it was like you brought real life back into the room.
Somewhere in my inner being, I knew that you would be okay. I don't know, I just knew it. When you go through these times, you really have to lean on your friends and your family. And even with work too, At the time, there was a woman that was heading up the department, and she said, this is not important. Your family's the most important thing. You take care of them. Don't worry about the work. And, to me, that was, so incredibly helpful. Because I would sit, sometimes when you guys were asleep, and I would sit in our kitchen, and I would just cry. Because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And at the time, I wasn't meditating yet. I wasn't really doing all the things that I do now. The tools were my friends and our family. and frankly, the love between us.
It is next level love that you gave me, because to look at my diminished, pitiful situation, and I was 152 pounds, and I
We're still
had no
beautiful to
hair,
me.
and I was gray, and for you to support me and encourage me, and frankly, at times leave me alone to sleep all afternoon, or
Give you those Neulasta shots.
oh God. Yeah.
I didn't know that I had it in me.
Yeah. I don't know that all these people understand just how guardian angelic they were in their effort. People who would just bring me food in the morning when I was in the hospital because I had to have something friendly to try to eat.
Right.
All of those contacts kept me in the living realm.
Yeah.
Because there was a tendency for me to feel at a certain point like I had actually kind of drifted off into another world that wasn't as alive and vital, and to have people pierce that and come in and just make contact for 10 minutes and leave me a sandwich, or that was big. And for me to realize that it was all right to get to the edge of life, because that's kind of where I was, and they saw me as vulnerable as one could be and still accepted me, still offered help. That changed my perspective of life.
Yeah.
I healed from the audacity of love. And it was the love that I would see and feel when I looked at you and when I looked at David, our son. And that's really what has stuck with me now, 10 years later, as I look back. I live in New York City. And when I go out on the street, I'm walking with purpose all the time. I do think, however, that it's like the song Turn, Turn, Turn by the Byrds. There's a season for everything. And so there's also a time to stand with purpose. And there's a time to kick back and rest, or put those beautiful feet up, and with your shoes, and ponder what your next purpose is. Because life has taught me that it's going to be chapter divided. So I think it's also really important for me to stay light on my feet and be able to change with time.
I mean, for me, I think is to live abundantly. And unfortunately, I've lost some very close people in my life that, they're not here. They're not here to age. They're not here to see their children grow. So I want to be able to live life, and walk away from fear and remind myself that no mud, no lotus. I think that sometimes you have to go through hard moments in life. There is a beautiful flower at the end of the road. If you're open and your eyes are open and your heart is open to it. I think it just made us even closer,
There's no doubt about
And
that.
and then you reciprocated, because when I was really ill a couple of years ago with COVID, you took care of me like I can't even. I mean, you gave me life. You did, and thank you for that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
you're welcome.